So, one thing that lights me up inside is diving into inner work. And I like to focus on that area of my life at the right timing. So, this episode is really cool because it's the right timing to dive into some shadow areas with a previous guest of mine, which excites me too. I love when people come back and share where we've been since the last time I saw you and what's going on. So, my guest today is Steven Twohig. So, welcome, Steven.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
Man, I looked up and it was August 9th, 2022, when you came on season 2, episode 51.
It was the day before my birthday.
Whoa,
Yes,
cool.
I remember that now. Yes.
So, in looking back, Stephen, at that episode, it was kicking because, of course, we shared a lot about, who you are, what you do, your shadow work, your amazing, skill sets. And you also led me through an amazing healing. Remember that?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that was profound. And I will definitely link that episode down below for all of you guys. So if you want to go back and go, what is she talking about? It is worth going back and going, what's Stephen talking about?
Well, it's the structure of it, right? It's one thing for us to talk about, it sells a lot of books, right? But to actually see it, and you went there, like you did, guys say, I didn't do anything. She did all the work. All I did was ask a couple questions, and she went right where she was needing to go. And that always seems to be the nature of it. So
The guide,
definitely
right? You're the
check that out.
guide.
Yep. I'm just walking next to you. I'm kind of holding the flashlight going, what was that? Well, what is that?
Holy shit,
Oh,
Teresa,
you want
look
to go
at
through there?
that.
Okay, well, what is that? Okay, what do you want to do? You want to go through that door? Okay, let's go. And you open up the door, you walk through the door, and then I shine the flashlight. Well, what is that? And
Yeah.
basically that's my whole job is I just hold flashlights for people.
Well, you hold a very nice and very powerful flashlight there, sir. So
Thank you.
I'm glad you're back, and I'm looking forward to chatting some more today about shadow, and you've got some new things to share. And so it's been 2 years, almost 2 years. Well, actually, you know what? This episode we're taping now in June, but it's actually going to be released in August. Wouldn't
Oh
that be
wow.
kicking if it was around the same time? It'd be almost 2 years exactly. So yeah,
Don't try to change it in any way, shape, or form. Just see if it naturally just falls.
I,
I
I
bet it falls
absolutely
pretty
will.
close.
Yeah, it'll
Interesting.
probably pretty close to that because this is going to be
Very
released in
interesting.
August. So it is August now, 2 years later, and so share what's been going on with you, Stephen. What's the new that's risen up in your life?
Well, the book is what's really new. I mean, it's not new. 2 years ago, I was still trapped under so much I didn't even know what I didn't know, kind of thing. The book that I had 2 years ago, I didn't even quite understand. I still don't understand it, but um, 2 years ago, I was still trudging the road. I was still stuck. I was stuck in a shadow right around that time. As a matter of fact, I had to do a piece of my own work through getting the book out. So the book is the newest. We've done 2 years now. We've done 8 more shadow ceremonies. We've had equal amounts of age, which are advanced guide educations. We've trained another 200 guides. We've been busy.
It sounds like it.
Yep.
Well, and I know for myself, I've recognized by just noticing what's going on out in the world that there's a lot of people who are, I'll say, turning within, which is the name of your book. Your
Yep.
book is Turning Within, Reclaiming Your Soul from Shadow. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. So what have you noticed in preparing this book as well as doing the work out in the world that who are some of the people that are they different now than they were several years ago? Or what are you noticing in the shadow aspect of people,
Yeah.
going there?
Well, there's a lot going on right now. So you have Aubrey Marcus is in the middle of finishing his book on what he calls, I think, the false self. It's going to be shadow. Mark Gaffney has an excellent book out called it's actually an Audible, Erotic and the Holy, that really goes into the false self. And there's a lot of really good material out there. Paul Levy's books on Wetiko, all 3 books they read like stereo instructions. Know that going in, like it's great bedtime reading kind of thing. You have the holographic, the holographic universe theory is coming online. The quantum, what we're understanding from a quantum reality perspective, is coming online. There's a lot of things that are really plugging in, and shadow work at some level, because the reality is this has a lot of different names, but at the root of it, it's shadow work. That's what we're doing here. It's kind of like you can call a room, but it all has you do body work, you do taping work, this is shadow work, and it's been around for eons, but it seems to be an emergence. Now, I think, Teresa, my theory, because I always, I created a series of rules in the book. There's a series of 4 rules. The second rule of shadow work is there are no accidents in shadow work. And we say that tongue in cheek because when you come to ceremony, there's not going to be any accidents here. So you all know, let's not have any accidents, safety first, right? But the deeper piece is we show up how we show up. How we do anything is how we do everything. There's no accidents. And it allows me to start to breathe enchantment back into my life. Now, when I do that, I go, well, even the deeper layer is everything happens for a reason and it serves. There are no accidents. There's a reason this is happening the way it's happening. Can I allow myself to step outside of it? And when I look at the way that the books that are coming out, the way that we're shifting our understanding of reality and consciousness, I think that the velocity of change has sped up. So, people are talking about the amount of violence and the amount of uncontrollables and the amount of, well, the velocity of change has sped up. What used to happen in 100 years is now happening in 10. What happening in 10 is now happening in a year. What happens in a year is just, it's a geometric speeding up. I believe that all has purpose, and what it's meant to do is it's meant to bring our awareness back to now. It's meant to, I'm going to use a word, and I always cringe as I use it, to wake us up, because I've now got to pay attention to, I'm now driving. If you think about it, most people are driving unconscious. I can't drive my car down this road the way I drove it down that road right back there, because where I'm going now, it doesn't look anything like where I came from. That's where we're going to. The velocity of change is, you have, and you start to see the fractal nature of reality. You see AI come online. Well, isn't that interesting? That's coming online in this time, in this space. It just seems like everything is lining up for a very dramatic shift in the way that we understand who we are and how we operate, that's giving us control back at the central level, at the individual node. That's what we are. We're all just a bunch of nodes, right? But at my level, I am starting to learn that I am the creative force in my reality. I will create my reality the way I create my reality. And it's forcing me to come to the awareness of all these constructs that I lived out of back there that don't work. So I think the trouble that we're seeing is a good sign. I'm not saying we should go out and pick fights with people. That's not what I'm saying at all. Ram Dass said I don't go looking for trouble, but when I do find it, underneath I'm going to find shadow, and below that I'm going to find grace. And so I think it's a good thing. I really do.
I totally agree with you. And it seems to me that the more awake people become, of course, that's the freedom, right? So there's the other side that doesn't really want you to embrace freedom, doesn't want you to go there. And so, yeah, that polarity is so strong right now. But I'm with you, Steve, and I 100% agree that it's the right timing, the synchronicities that are happening, the books, the awarenesses, like you said, AI, everything that's coming full circle and online, so to speak. It's brilliant. I mean, there's not a better time. So
There are no
I'm
accidents,
excited.
right? It's like there
No.
are no accidents that all this is happening. COVID, I would consider that, if we consider matrices of birth, much like the birthing process, much
Mhm.
like the hero's journey, everything
Yep.
is structurally, fractally. This, what's true here is true here. What's true there is true there. If you look at, we all got put in a in a timeout, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And now we're coming through that timeout. It's like, now what?
Right.
Now what? We're birthing. Something new is coming online. We know now. Um, I read, I can't remember where the book was, but they said one of the challenges we have is that we've lost our hierophany. So you think that when um, back pre-modern times, if my dad was a blacksmith, it was a highly good chance that I was going to become a blacksmith. Well, when you unpack what that means from a day to day, as a blacksmith that was raised by a blacksmith, that was raised by a blacksmith, that was raised by, the breathing that I would breathe, the way that I would look at reality would be through the structure of sacredness that came along with a passing all off. This is the way dad did it. And this is the way we've lost that sacred place. That's what hierophany is. It's a sacred space. So we are forced now to find our own sacred spot to stand in this reality and to cultivate that sacredness. And I think we're being forced to that. I think we're being forced. Many of us, because I'm that guy, right? I didn't come here because I'm a guru. That's not who I am, right? I'm that guy that's bumped my head up against all this stuff and continues to. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that. It's just time for us to find our sacred spot. And what we're finding is it's right here at the center of us.
And that's the freedom, right?
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and you and
It's
you have yeah,
yep.
and you having that big flashlight to go, hey, here's some areas you might want to look at, or that might be coming up for you. And so,
Yeah, it's kind of like we're like those people that have spent the entire night just working and toiling, and we've gone to sleep, and now it's time to wake up, and we don't want to get up. Like we just don't want to come back. It's like you're in the middle of a dream. You know how when you're in a dream, when you're dreaming and you go to wake up and it's like that dream that was so powerful that you want to go back to sleep to continue to follow through. That whole structure of the way we do that, if you go back in and just everybody just for a moment, just imagine, go back to a time when you were waking up, when you were, you had a long night, or you whatever it is, you were dreaming, and when you were in a dream, that dream was so vivid that you've just wanted to go back to sleep to finish it, but it never finished. We're in that process right now. We're in that waking where we've got to come to the reality that you're driving this, but it's how. It's not a matter of if anymore. Like the scientists are agreeing, it's all coming. The convergence is happening where everybody is now at some level all talking about the same thing, and we're coming to this understanding that you know what, you're God having a human experience, and it's an illusion, but it's a very important and vital illusion. And you know what I mean? It's like people want to get rid of the ego. Well, if you get rid of the ego and you go to duality, well then what is all this for then? You're telling me to disengage from this thing that's been created over billions of years that it took for us to get here so that we could tell ourselves a story, so that consciousness could pop inside and say, my name is Steve. You know what I mean? And I've got something to say. Like for consciousness to be able to do that inside a structure where it's all consciousness, but to be in the container in such a way that my consciousness can now think that it can just experience the story that it lives in. That took a lot of work to get here. You know what I mean? And to throw all
absolutely,
that out by saying go back to source, I get that. But what about what happens? What is all that for? And I think it's to bring genius through. I
yeah,
think I
I
think I
totally
think at
agree
the
with
end of the
you.
day.
Absolutely. And so let's talk a little about your book, Turning Within, because I wrote some things down as I was going through it. Hey, and if you're like watching the YouTube video, you saw Stephen just hold the book in front of us.
That's right. That's right. I've always there's something it it took a while for me to get the book in my hand, and to get this book in my hand, I got to tell you guys, I think everybody has a book in them, and I
Oh,
think
they
that
do. Yeah.
and I think that having this, it just changes me at a level that my grounding. I still think
Yeah.
that I still have my fear that everybody's going to think I'm crazy, but now I can't hide. You know what I mean? This
Right.
is where I'm at, and there's a certain amount of being able to triangulate my presence in this reality. And so if you've got a book in you guys, just it's worth it. I know it doesn't feel like it when you're going through the process, but keep walking, and the people will surround you. People will show up right when they need to, and just keep moving forward. It's worth it on the other side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the transformation that the book offers.
The actual turning within. So the book
Yeah.
itself, when you say turning within, for a moment, sit and think what that means. Well, it means I'm going to turn within. No, that's not what that means. The deeper truth is that if you were God having a Teresa experience, that means the experience would be coming from within you. What I've come to understand or come to rely on as true, a deeper truth, is that my reality begins and ends with me. And there's something coming from within me. There seems to be this deeper experience other than the surface of thought, and it's coming from within me. And as I start to plug into that and understand that through my work in shadow, and now as we structurally move beyond just the suffering, but you start to notice how the whole structure of this construct, this reality that we're living in, it's all coming from within you. And as I change where I'm at in here, somehow everything out here is changing as well. Now by no don't immediately it's like, well, this guy's fucking crazy. I know, I know, right?
Even really? No.
Right. But as you do your work, there's just a certain level of grounding that and when what you'll notice is as you get grounded, the people around you now can sense where you're at, and somehow it rubs off on them, just like when somebody comes in the room and they're ticked off and now I'm agitated because they're agitated. Well, that structure of reality goes both ways. And as I tend to my shadow, the songs that are being played inside of me as I walk into a room, because you're sensing a part of me that I can't see, and I'm sensing a part of you that I can't see. And that's always going on, always and always. I'm not just here, I'm here and there and all the people listening. Like all together, we are all connected, and that's not woo woo. Like it's very practical. And as I start to do my work, first thing it looks like is I no longer move out of fear. I'm holding my space. And now that I'm holding my space, I'm like, what's coming from within? I'm assessing. I call it the RAIN process. Recognize you're in shadow. Allow yourself to be where you are, because I judge myself and then I beat myself up. And that's not the right way to go. You can't go that way. You got to stop. Allow myself to be here. Investigate where it comes from. It's all in the book. And then nurture the need that that is underlying, that's the deeper root. Because I'm dealing with, what I find is that most people don't design the ideal. Most people just manage circumstances. Most of us, and most of the time, we are surface dwellers at best, and it's by design. But what if we could start to work at those deeper levels and start to clean out all that suffering rooted programming that we've been swimming in? That's what turning within is. It's a global experiment to see if we can all together, everybody turn in. You see that volume right there? Yep. Okay, turn that down. What happens? And if we get enough people that will turn in and find that same knob inside of them and turn that down, and we all do it all at the same time, I'm curious what would happen if we all, everybody lift all at once. Ready? Go. Many hands make light work. I think we hit another structure and we open up another level of understanding just because we've all gone in and done that work. So that's really what the book is designed to do. It's designed to get enroll everybody. Go look, read the book. It's not meant to be something that will teach you. You're not going to learn anything. There's no learning here. Like I can't teach you anything. I don't know anything about Teresa's life. I've never been in the river of the story called Teresa. I've never been in it. I'm curious about it. I'm excited about it. I am thrilled to be given the blessing to sit by the river with the people that I work with and say, tell me what it feels like to be in that. That's basically what I do, right? But I've never been in the river of the story called Teresa. I've only been in my river. And my river, bring a flashlight and a friend, because it's scary in there. I'm assuming it's like that for everybody. And so the goal is for us
Absolutely.
to come together and sit in that river long enough to where we go, oh, I see now. And it's the unlearning of the things that we were taught that just don't serve us anymore. And through that, we learn, well, if that's true, then that's like that all the way down. Yep, all the way down, all the way down.
Wow. And I know, in the beginning of the book, you talk about, you kind of dive into, childhood fears, your story with your uncle, which was amazing. And I resonated so much with, I'll tell you honestly, the blanket shield. Stephen,
The boogie monster. The boogie monster. Yeah.
I had my head under the blanket almost all my life until probably about 10 years ago. Seriously, until I, was able to really clear out some things.
Mm-hmm.
I had a blanket shield up for many decades.
Yep. And we don't even know that we've been doing it. We've been doing it for so long. We've gotten so good at doing these things that we've learned to do to survive that have no value in the real world, that they keep us safe in some level, some semblance of the illusion of safety, because I don't think that's really safe. I think at the end of the road, it's the exact opposite of that. But yes, and it's like, that's what that is. It's like I can go in now and go, oh, I see the whole structure of meaning and why I did what I did and what that was about. And here's the deeper piece, Teresa. What if you've been doing that longer than when you were a little girl?
Oh, I'm sure I was.
Like if that's just a fractal reflection of
Yeah.
what you brought in here into this structure.
Mhm,
And now
mhm.
I know I start to sound bat shit crazy, but this is the work. Like
Yeah.
we'll do age and we'll roll out a carpet and I'll see things happen. I will see things come out of people that's like, there's no way that that could have been done other than by some grace. that exists beyond anything that we're experiencing here. And I didn't come here, like, I'm not that woo-woo guy. We've had this
Mhm.
conversation, right? I'm just
Yeah.
not that woo-woo guy,
Mhm.
but I've become that guy. And it's just out of a practicality. I just kept following my feet, and this is where I ended up, and it works.
Mhm. Well, I think that people that call things woo woo just that's their level of consciousness, right? And they just don't understand.
And there's
Again, like
nothing
you
wrong
and
with
I
that.
understand. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
It's where they're at. It's their perspective. It's the label they put on it, but there's nothing woo woo. It's about being practical. It's about understanding the unseen parts of who we are, and everyone came in with it, right? Like every person on the
right.
planet has that part. So hello, people, but I think it's also the way some people play in it, which is okay too, right? Like,
Well, it's all pretend anyways.
yeah,
Like, it's
right.
all pretend at the
Mhm.
end of the day. Even this,
Yeah,
at some level, that's not quite true. Like, you
right.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
all pretend anyway. So if that's the game they're pretending, what makes my pretend anymore? For them, my reality, me and my reality you cannot separate me from my reality. It's just only I can do that. Right.
Absolutely.
And only that, you're not going to separate them. That's exactly right. Good job, God.
Mhm.
That's exactly what you should be. And they're going to experience here's the beauty, the power of the book is that it shows you why is it that good people, Christians, can have a completely different ideology, and they can stand in that belief, and for them it's real. Like,
Mhm.
and they will experience Christ, and they will experience, how come I can go to Buddhists, and how come I can go to Muslims, and how come I can go to all these different people, and I can plug in with them, and I can go, show me your truth. And they show me this thing, and you could see the utter, this is my experience of reality. And they're all, they're all true. They're all right.
Mhm.
Because the first rule is, like, the first level is, the first directive of the mind is that we create meaning.
Mhm.
I am addicted to meaning. I have to have meaning. And I've been having meaning for so long that I forgot that meaning was the whole point. That's why people talk about purpose. The experience of meaning, the experience of alive. Joseph Campbell said, I don't think people are looking so much for purpose, but for an experience of being alive. What does that give them? I have meaning.
Mhm.
This is what this means. It's real, real. Right? And you see people that cycle into meaning that's suffering rooted, that's absolutely, it's like this, I'm not good enough, you're not going to love me, if you leave me, you'll die. I'm going to get smothered, I'm going to get abandoned, and you break away, go in and look at whatever story is plaguing you, and it'll break down to one or more of them 5 sacred fears, and they make that a reality, and that reality is so suffering rooted that it gives them the experience that I'm alive. So I working with a gal who she's in this, I'm gonna die here, I'm gonna die here, I'm gonna die here. So then she's addicted to this experience of fighting the current,
Mhm.
right? Um, me and a buddy of mine, when we were kids, we used to call this river rats. We'd jump in the Missouri River, and if anybody's from Sioux City listening, they'll all agree with you. Don't jump in that river. Like, you got no business jumping in that river. We would jump in the river, and we would coast down. You're from, you've been, like, and you know the Missouri River. Well, we would jump in
Mhm.
the Missouri River, and then we would go down, and then we would swim back to shore. So we'd dive out, and then we would swim back. And every time you swam back, it was a fight for your life. And we would get to shore, and I distinctly, almost practically every time, I would turn to Tor, and man, I'm not doing that again. That almost killed me, man. As I'm walking farther down so I can dive back in again, I'm telling myself how I'm never going to do that again.
Mhm.
What was that structure? Well, that structure was that addiction to that experience, right? And then we form ways to protect, and then we lie to ourselves. I lie to myself first. That's the first rule of shadow work. And then I create the structure of reality. And what does that do? The hero's journey. If I can survive it, maybe I'm enough. Maybe I'm enough.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm enough. Maybe I'm enough. Right.
Mhm.
And then it cycles. It cycles. It cycles. And being able to pull out of that. The book is about pulling out of the structure of that in the life. Like, I'm not, I'll teach you it. Like, I teach you everything I know. I don't hold anything back, but it's not about teaching it. It's about, okay, now go out and taste that. Oh, is that real? I don't know, but there it is. And everybody keeps finding it. And now take another step and another step. And through reading the book, you're unlocking pieces of yourself that have been there since, I think, before you know that who you were.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about certainty as a key to freedom. So I loved that, Stephen. So,
The shame piece? Oh, yes. It's a complicated piece because I started to study shame, because shame is this interesting. If you really go in, everybody plug in. What do you feel? Where do you feel shame in your life? First off, let's find a 3. So it's like not a 10. I have shame around my whatever. Like, and you think of the thing that you don't want anybody to know. Maybe it's sexuality, maybe it's finances, maybe it's relationships, whatever. We're not looking for the 10. We want
mhm.
a 3. Like, I got a crusty pinky toe, right? And I don't like my pinky toe. I just don't like it,
Mhm.
right? So think of that thing where you have shame that's at a level 3, and start to ask yourself, well, look how certain you are. It's not just that you think that it's bad, it's that if you tell somebody, they're going to agree with you, right? It's a certainty. There's a certainty there that it's real. And now I want you to entertain for a moment that nothing is that certain. Like, the one thing in our reality that we have is variety. There's no way that I can suck this bad this consistently over a period of time. And what you'll find when you really taste it is it's not just it's like it's the exact same. It never moves. It's always deeper than me. And when you really get down into it, what you find, Teresa, is that it's love. That somehow I violated myself for love of another. Somehow I've taken on a judgment for somebody else so that they will love me, so they can prove to them that I am. Like, it's all based around this really uh, twisted up, knotted up layer of love. And so underneath every piece of shame, with certainty, I tell you, there's gold. So it's the certainty that you can't suck that. I do this talk every Friday. I go in, these people they're getting ready to go work with medicine. I go, how many of you here right now believe you're the worst person in the room? And we'll get, because we're in the front line, so we'll get anywhere from 7 to 10 people will raise their hands. It's like, not all of you can be the worst person in the room. And they'll go, that's true. I can't. And now look how certain you are that you're the worst person in the room. And now look at how often you make that assessment. It's like, you're not that important. You're just not that important. Like, you're not. And so it's like, it's how I gain. It's a very unsatisfying way to satisfy a need for significance. Shame. And it's like and then the structure of our reality, right? I then navigate so that shame never comes to light, that embarrassment, that crusty little pinky toe never comes to light. And when I do that, when I navigate from that, the mind automates all meaning. So I navigate from don't let that happen, don't let anybody see that, and so that I don't show that. So I'm a little bit resistant in that area, right? And then I come out of it. That tells my mind that it works. So then it makes that judgment, that identity, even more consistent, more calcified, harder to break free from. It's more of we call it a black hole, right? And on top of that, you can see me leaning in a weird way, but you're not conscious of that because it's the part of you that's deeper than the part of you that stands, that's seeing that. It's like, oh, look at that shame. And you're then translating that unconscious message through your deep conscious, and that has to go. And if you've not owned that part of you, you're going to translate it through your shadow, and then shadow boxing starts, or shadow dancing sometimes, right? It's like now, it's like the Jerry Maguire lie, you complete me. My shame of not being able to do something sees your shame of needing somebody to take care of to show that you're enough. My crazy somehow spots your, I think this is profound. Somehow my crazy, just the right kind of crazy, lines up with just the right kind of crazy for you. And we come together, and then I have this feeling of being trapped, and you have this feeling of being abandoned. And so I pull away and you chase me in this. And it's like somehow there's around the world, majority of relationships are operating out of this unconscious. What happens when everybody goes in and right there, tend to that? You no longer have to live out of that
Magic.
shame. Magic. It's exactly right. And I think we're going to see a spark that's going to be heard around the world. I think that, like, I'm very excited for where we're going, and it's happening. Like you said, I'm not the only book. There's a lot out there, a lot of genius ideas out there, because now is the time. If If not now, then when? If not you, then who? Right? When will you come this far to go this far? If you're on this, if you're listening to this, there are no accidents. You're hearing this for a reason. How much of this can you hear? Can you hear the full message enough to go, let me take another bite? And it doesn't have to be here, but inside of you, like more of that, what's real? And you come at it from a curious perspective. What am I really telling myself? And interesting things start to open up because then the mind goes, oh, Steven's listening. Let me throw him some more information. And then it watches me to go, is he going to buckle under that? Because
Right.
I can only take so much ugliness, right?
You can only take so many crusty little toes.
There you go. Yes, that's exactly right.
One, that's it.
That's right. I got two.
Oh,
I got
2.
one. I got one. And now here's the thing. So now that go back to the crusty toe, right? Think of that part of you that's like a 3. What if you just allow yourself to, what if you loved that part of you? Right now, turn to that thing that you have a 3 to, if you're listening on this call, right? Or you're watching on video, whatever it is, just turn to that part of you that's a 3, and let go right there. Let go of the judgment that you hold that somehow there's something wrong with having a crusty ass pinky toe. That crusty ass pinky toe has a purpose. And the reason my crusty ass pinky toe is a crusty ass pinky toe is because I broke my toe, and I broke my toe for this reason and that reason, and that is sacred. And when I can love myself right there, I feel this release. And when I feel this release, imagine if you could do that at a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8. What if you could do that for your 10s? And let's build that muscle so that we can let go of these things that no longer serve us.
I'm on board. We're on board, Steven. So, turning within, reclaiming your soul from shadow. Congratulations, Steven, on an amazing book. I loved it. I'm still reading through it because it's a like a chapter at a time. Like, okay, let me embrace that. Now, what's that? But it's brilliant. So I want to congratulate you so much. And I have a final question for you, Steven. So if we met up 2 years from now, in August of 2026.
When we meet up 2 years from now.
When we meet up, where do you think you'll be at? What do you think you'll be doing?
2 years from now, we will have, we are in the active stages of expanding the structure of this. This isn't just research. This isn't just theory. There's a practical. We came from the carpet. Like this came from the carpet. And so there's a practicality to it. Right now, what we're doing is we're reaching out. We've worked with psilocybin churches. We've worked with ayahuasca churches. This works in addiction fields. This works with mindfulness. This works with, like, it works in sales. It works in business development. We're actively looking for ways to share this and to get this technology, this practice, because that's what it is. It's a practice. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it, in various ways so that we can continue the research to understand, like, this is all just, well, is it everybody touch that? Is that seem, yep, okay, well then let's write that down. Like, you know what I mean? It's a group effort. So 2 years from now, I'm excited, and I'm scared to say I'm not sure, because the more people, it's out now. Like, I can't hide behind I don't know. I have to give you, this is what I know so far. This is what, and I'm 2 years from now, I may see it completely different. But there's enough people now that can get a hold of it, that we get enough hands in the soup. I think that we're going to see something miraculous. 2 years. I mean, people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in a decade. So, I'd like to be in another 5 facilities. In 2 years, I'd like to have another 500 guides that are trained. I'd like to have another 1,000 practitioners. And I'd like to have another 50,000 people that have read the book and are actively engaging it in their life. That would be my goal. I want my post office box filled with people that have gone through, because there's processes, and these processes are designed to be used over and over. Like, you've read the book. You could come, isn't it true? You could go back and read chapter 1 again, and you're going to get another layer out of the
Absolutely.
insight.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to, and as that post office box, I continue to learn from what people are, as they're unlocking these pieces of themselves and they're sharing with me what they're getting. It'll allow me to expand in a way that I'm just currently not able to do in a localized area. So I'm really excited about 2 years from now. There's no telling as long as, like, especially thank you very much. Like, this is the thing. Without you being here willing to share this for me, which is it's a calling. My calling is to unlock and to study the innate genius that's just, it's right below the human condition. There's this genius that's trying to come through, and I'm having a deeper conversation with that. I just couldn't do that without you, Teresa. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to share what to me is a very important process. And if you don't do it here, if you don't do it with this, just it's time. It's time to learn how to love yourself more. It's time to learn how to structure your reality in a way that serves you, that doesn't hold you back. My mentor Tony once said, never believe a prophecy that doesn't serve you. And I've taken that on, and when you really allow yourself to bite into the truth of that, never allow yourself to buy in to a prophecy that holds you back. And there are a lot of people right now that are just living under a lie, and it's time to wake up from the dream you forgot you were having.
Well, you're so welcome, Stephen. I mean, it's an honor because I look at it like this is just a win-win-win for me. Anytime I can bring someone on to share, it's a win for me, a win for them, a win for spirit. So, I honor the fact that you came back, and I look forward to connecting again because I have a feeling we will be connecting again.
Oh, I hope so. I look forward to it.
So share with the listeners how they can connect with you, get your book, and then
you can get the book anywhere you can get a book. It would be great if you guys called Barnes & Noble and told them to get it. But if not, you can get it at barnesandnoble.com. You can get it at amazon.com. You can get it. I mean, it's an Ingram Sparks. They did a wide distribution, so it should be everywhere that you can get a book. And if it's not, please ask them to get it. If you go to masteringchange.com, because that's what I'm supporting your mastering of change. We are going through, this is the age of change. That's where we're at. We went from the computer age into the information age, and this is the change age. This is the shift age. There's a book out called The Shift Age. Change has become a constant. So masteringchange.com is my website. You can go to shadowceremony.com. You can go to shadow.guide. You can get me that way. But masteringchange.com is kind of the flagship.
And I'll have all those links in the show notes, so you can go there and check it out. As well, like I said, I'll definitely share the link to the first episode so they get a little more background about who you are and that exciting time you led me through that work. So
it was amazing because not every podcast has a different flavor, but there's an authenticity that comes when you're willing to go there. It tells me like, because sometimes I'll feel that, well, there's something right there that they're working on. Mm-hmm. And I can feel it, and there was a time when I couldn't go there. I had to do a piece of work around it, but I feel it and I sense it, and I lean into it. And if they go through the door, they go through the door. If they don't, there's reasons for that too. But I knocked on the door and you blew that door open. So go watch that. And then if you know what you're getting into, you might want to go watch the podcast before you read the book, because the book dives right into it. It's right. 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
And that's how I roll, Steven. I'm like, oh, hells yeah, open that door, let's go.
You did. You jumped in, you dove in. It's like you came in, all right, what are we doing? All right, let's do that. Right into the deep end of the pool. So, and you were backstroking. You did amazing. So
so thank you again so much, Steven, for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. And thank you all out there in the world for listening into another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. Again, everything about Steven will be in the show notes. You can check him out. And I will suggest that you do, because your soul will thank you. And until next week, just remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey. To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.